Things of value in prison and things that nearly all prisoners value. I'm going to talk about those things in this video. Hello, welcome to Convict Inc. I'm your host, Robert Rosso. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please do so. If you like this video, please push like and share with your family, friends, neighbors, enemies, etc. I was watching a video probably that had to do with Mackenzie Shirella about a week or so ago. And there was a former, not cellmate, but a girl she did time with in the Ohio Department of Corrections. And she mentioned how artwork was valued or valuable in prison. That gave me the idea for this video. So I want to go ahead and talk about some of those things. Again, I always like to say that all prisons are different, all prison systems are different, and all prisoners, well, are they all different? But yeah, I mean, really. So things that some value, others won't, depending on what's going on in their life, who they are, whatever. But I want to start off with two that just popped out on the top of my head at the beginning. And I've made a little list so I won't forget, and actually called one of my friends. Shout out Paul. And shout out to my new fan, Adam. Had to put that out there. Anyway, all right, so let's start off with what I think is probably the most important that prisoners value to themselves or whatever. Photographs. Wives, girlfriends, family, children. I would actually say, so in a men's prison it would be, if you really want to know, because so many girls split and then come back later. Tendency, just what it is when they get out after they deal with Sancho for a while, or Jody. They want to, if in Arkansas they call it Jody. That's the guy. Sancho and Jody, for those of you that don't know, are the guy that your girl or wife leaves you for while you are locked up. So I would have to say kids' pictures first, followed by wives, but it depending. You know what I mean? Depending. So sometimes if the guy comes in married, it'd probably be the wife front and center, and then the kids on the side. This is like pictures on the bulletin board, if you're allowed bulletin boards in that prison. And then slowly but surely the wife picture comes down, but pictures, and for sure. Next, and this goes back in the day a little bit because things are changing, letters. Letters from home, again, letters from children. There's always that Dear John letter, and that is wife is writing you to tell you that she's divorcing you, or seeing somebody else, or cussing you out for being the SOB that you were on the street, whatever. A lot of guys save letters. A lot of guys rip those letters up. But letters were really, really important. Mail call in general used to be a really big deal. Not so much these days because of the computer technologies, iPads, in the feds you have, well, they have, did I say iPad? Tablets, I should say. Tablets and, of course, computer terminals. So that changed a lot as far as the mail goes, you know. I mean, mail call used to actually be really special, you know, especially if you were getting letters. It sucked if you weren't, you know. Yeah, it did. So I'm going to cross off letters, photos, and this is what the girl who did time with Mackenzie was talking about, and she was right. Artwork holds a pretty big value in prison, and that is guys that are talented artists sell whatever, portraits. I remember at Butner FCI 2, if you went to the rec center in Butner FCI 2, let's just call it from 2010 to 2015, and probably before and after those dates, in the rec center, they had, it was like a little swap meet, a little art place. So there would be guys that were painting, and they'd paint these portraits. I mean, Obama was the big thing at the time, okay? So there was like all these huge paintings of Obama, drawings of Obama. I remember that. Beyonce. Of course, artists will do portraits and or just, you know, just draw pictures in general. A lot of guys who can't draw will go ahead and buy artwork to send home to their wives, kids, mothers, family, whatever, just friends. Used to, back in the day, people would also draw on envelopes. You know, that was a big deal. I remember in 1995, I spent a fortune on this guy that was that was Justin. What was his last name? I forgot. But Justin, he was phenomenal. Every letter that I sent out had this just awesome artwork on it. I did spend a lot of money. Maybe it was $1 an envelope back then. I don't know, but I spent a lot on that. And art can also be people taking string out of underwear and stuff like that, and making crosses. We used to be able to send those out depending on the prison through letters. Sometimes they did through Hobbycraft, sometimes not at all. Sometimes what you did, if you have a prison that you can't send stuff out of, whether that be artwork, in one case I actually sent out a dirty underwear, or dirty shorts, I should say. Somebody went home and mailed them for me, but that was a long time ago. So anyway, the guys that leave would take artwork, mail stuff home for people. But in artwork can also, or so tattoos, that would fall into the same category. You get a good tattoo artist and he can pretty much, name the price in prison. A lot cheaper than on the street, especially if a guy's your friend. I never got my back. I've got a tattoo above my neck with my the second person I married's name on it, and a spider on my shoulder and a tramp stamp on my lower back that says San Pedro. And I was always thinking about getting an ocean scene on my back. And one of my bros, Randy Shreve, was going to do it for free, but I can't stand being tattooed, and I kept putting it off. That's the truth. So artwork, tattoos, really big. So I want to knock that off. Shout out Paul on this one. TV remote. TV remotes are not for inmates normally. Again, every prison's different, okay? But I can tell you in the federal prison system, they do not give remotes to inmates. Or the counselors might, and they might have a trusted inmate or whatever, but you're not supposed to have remotes. If you get a TV remote in prison, I had one, Coleman, didn't you buy it? Who bought that remote? And how much was it? Was it $200-$300? I forgot what you paid for it. But so I had a remote that I came up on. And what would happen is guys who were trusted around staff members would then sometimes go in drawers and they would find the remotes. There's TVs all over the units usually, right? Each TV has a remote. Those remotes go in the counselor's office or CO's office. Guys will get in there, staff members turn their back, or staff members will actually allow you to have it and turn their back, whatever. Or I can name a case in general where somebody snitched for a remote. For sure he did, okay? So TV remotes, very valuable. He who has the remote controls the TV 9 times out of 10. I've seen it, I've seen some people that weren't able to handle the position of running TV. It's a freaking headache, by the way, okay? I had a remote for a long period of time at FCI Terre Haute, and a lot of guys hated me because I was a news Nazi, and I apologize to this day to some of them. But TV remote, very, 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 very valuable, okay? I have down here tennis shoes, but I can also add shoes. So tennis shoes. Commissary, you can buy tennis shoes. Inmates can buy tennis shoes in the commissary. However, what's really valuable are tennis shoes that you cannot buy in that prison. So guys are transferred in and they'll have these cool tennis shoes, or guys that work in R&D, shout out Colin, shout out Shep, our guys that work in R&D who have new people turning themselves in will come in with like, what did I have? Tony Hawks. Tony Hawks are kind of like Vans. Oh my God. I put an order out, every pair of Tony Hawks or like shoes, Vans, whatever. I want them. Tell me, name the price. And then they came out, and so those shoes can be confiscated, okay? They can. So, but for a long time, I had Tony Hawks, and it was like, I had so many people pull me up, how much you want for those? When I was at Lewisburg, there was a pair of Air Jordans, and they were size 15 or 16, and somebody owed me a lot of money. These shoes came from outside somewhere and were brought in by, so somebody transferred in, These shoes were not able to be bought in any prison, but somebody transferred in and told staff that they were selling these at a different prison and they were the only ones on the yard. I mean, everybody wanted these shoes, but they were too big. I ended up giving them to a guy by the name of Mark Ryder out of New York, a friend of John Gotti, Tommy Karate, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, tennis shoes, I would say certain kind of boots that you can't get, that would be valuable. Watches. Boy, oh boy, watches. Oh, I should have showed the watch that would be really valuable in prison that I have. Like an Iron Man. Is it the Iron Man? No, the Iron Man's a basic one. Anyway, but here's what guys would do a lot of times. They would take watches, take the face off, and color the faces in. Now, that was contraband, and some staff would confiscate them. And if a staff member did not like somebody, they would take those watches. I can honestly say that I know a lot of white staff members that had racist tendencies. They did. And would black guys were big about that, you know. But watches that either were sold on commissary and are no longer sold or are only sold once a year. Guys from Terre Haute, put in the comment section, what am I trying to say? It's not the Iron Man, right? The Iron Man is the simple one, and I have one here, actually from prison, that I use today. So, because my Fitbit's dead. So, what's the watch I'm trying to say? Put it in the comment section. Those watches, they started selling only at Christmas time. So let's just say I think it was like $100, okay? Give it a month or two, easy $300 watches, not even, or even $500. And while I'm talking about watches, I must talk about jewelry. The policy in the Federal Bureau of Prisons, as far as I can remember, was you can't have any jewelry over $100. Now, jewelry, of course, you can slip it on the visitation room. And I know many guys who had chains that were worth multiple thousands of dollars. I can think of Big Jerry Benham. I can think of Negro in Lewisburg. Not Negro, Negron, I think it was, Puerto Rican, and I saw him at Butner. Those guys had, I mean, these chains were worth easy a couple $1,000s on the street or $1,500, and in prison, that's just, you name it, you can have it. So some kind of jewelry, or some jewelry is valued. Rings, you can get a BS nothing. A ring that out here is like $5 in a pawn shop, and it can go for over $100 or more in prison. So any kind of little exclusive jewelry, you can't buy jewelry. So that would be something of value. Off-colored clothing. So we sell grays. Gray t-shirts are common for, it's sold in commissary. Now, if somebody comes in with a darker gray one from a different prison, that would be valued. People want what's different, especially the ballers, especially the guys that are slinging drugs or just people with money. You know, I know a guy, and I go back to Big Jerry, did a video about me and him fighting, biggest guy in Leavenworth that I lucked up on. He owned, that was his whole existence, having exclusive stuff that he can transfer with and have a CO put that they got that stuff from that prison. Then you go to a different prison, it's on your property sheet, and then they're allowed to have it. So it's kind of grandfathered in some cases. And while I'm on that, and I didn't even write that down because I said grandfathered in, radios. Back in the day, they had actual like boom boxes in Leavenworth, okay? Then a staff member tried to break up a stabbing and got stabbed. Stupid. Got stabbed, and warden came through. They took all the old radios. Now, some of the snitches got some of those radios back, brought them back inside, and those were worth big money. I remember they had a little baby boombox that they started selling in 1999 in Leavenworth. It's a little gray one. It sounded like tin can, the speakers, but just a little small baby boombox. This guy named Happy Jack comes walking down the tier with it, and I see it. I have no idea that they're about to start selling them. So he paid $13, $16, $19, whatever, under $20 for it in the commissary, excuse me. And I think I gave him $100 for it. Sucker came in with money. Yeah, I'll buy it. So like 2 weeks later, they started selling them. He had he knew somebody that worked in the warehouse that got a hold of those and started putting them out in the prison and selling them prior to them going on the store and being sold to the general population. So that was exclusive, and boy, that bit me in the ass. That was one story there. Commissary items that you cannot buy, or that are not sold in prison. So let's say, for example, fireballs. So FCI Terre Haute has a no sugar policy. They think that if they stop selling candy on the store with sugar in it, that they can then stop the wine problem. But that's their thinking. Fireballs are super freaking addicting. I had a bag to 2-bag. I have it a day when I was in the Butner complex. I remember you could only pack out so much commissary when you leave and transfer to different prison, and I loaded up on fireballs and took every one of them. I was sick because they weren't allowed sugar. And then I believe actually Shep, who worked R&D, got his hands on it and then sold them back. I think that's how it worked. Yeah, and I would have probably paid big money for them back then. So if they're $1 a bag, I probably would have gave $10 a bag for fireballs. It sounds like people can do a clip of me saying that. That'd sound bad. But there's cinnamon fireballs, you know what I mean? But guys come in with certain kind of little Debbie cakes. I'm just chips, anything that you can't buy in a prison, and somebody transfers with items that were sold in a different prison, gold. Of course, any kind of food that staff can bring in. Jesus, if you can but the guys will usually eat that. I have eaten, Burger King, but I forgot what it was. Now I've had staff bring me in and eat that. Yeah, that was in Butner, female staff, 2007. And while we're on, was it food? It's staff food. Pig spit. What do I mean by pig spit? Cops chew tobacco, especially in prisons like Terre Haute, which we call the Hut, Terre Haute, or Lewisburg. A lot of what blacks call racist hillbilly cops. They chew. Tobacco products were banned, I think 2005 was the last time in the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Cops chew these. Hold on. This is my cup of chew. This is a used chew. Now I have toilet paper in my cups. Cops will get like a soda bottle and spit in it all day, okay? Then they'll usually they don't have pouches, they have wads of tobacco. They then spit it in the bottle, throw it in the trash can, inmates scoop it up. Or in a case that I did an interview with the guy, Ronald Coleman, it was on a live. I think I even titled it $52,000 on his prison account selling pig spit. That's what we call it, chew, pig spit. So this would probably be the tobacco, but specifically the pig spit would be one of the biggest money makers outside of drugs. And in some case, K2s, they make so much money off that pig spit. If guys have access to a cop who will give them their recycled, reused tobacco chew, aka pig spit, make a fortune. Not only do they sell the tobacco products, they take the spit, which they call juice, and they will then put it on tea, like tea bags. Open a tea bag, pour spit, dry it out in the microwave, people smoke it. Yay, buy it all day long. All day long, people would smoke tea with juice, aka pig spit on it. Disgusting. That is one of the big, high-valued things in prison. Shout out Paul again. An iron. Every unit, most units, some units don't. Every unit has an iron, clothes, to iron your clothes. If you can get one of those, keep it in your cell, big value. Now, why do guys want to keep an iron? It's not for clothes. It's to cook on. You then can cook grilled cheese sandwiches, hamburgers. Guys run restaurants who have irons. I had a bro named Jerry Jerry Wynn, who was at USP Beaumont, his hustle was making hamburgers and he made a killing. He owned the iron. Now, I will say this, grease slips into those holes. They're a bitch to get out. Guys have hustles actually cleaning irons. So if you have an iron, big deal. Amps. People make makeshift amps to amplify their little radios. Worth money, value. And speakers. Guys will take cardboard, little headphones out of radios, whatever, make speakers, or take the speakers out of the communication system. The staff, the speakers from the units. Like, you know, when people, they call like chow, whatever, they take those speakers out, make radios out of them, sell them for big money. Yes, during a shakedown, most of them get taken. Then the guys who have access to the trash, once they're all thrown out, there's what's called hot trash. Guys who have access to that hot trash, or just trash in general, will then take speakers or whatever contraband and then sell it back to the population. Stingers, that's to warm up coffee or hooch or make shine. Stinger is just electrical cord. So pull a cord off a fan. For example, I'm looking at a fan. Have the wires, you pull the cord off, wires like that. You can take where am I holding this? You can take a metal plate off of electrical plate, you know, from plug-in. Well, I'm having trouble with the words again today. Why? It's like 2 days in a row. Take the plate, bust the plate in half, hook the wires to it. Little voodoo, you got to put a toothbrush or piece of plastic. Anyway, they're called stingers. Actually, in California, I think they sold stingers on the store. Heating elements, basically, okay? Those are worth money. Sunglasses, boy, oh boy, oh boy. So they sell shitty sunglasses on the stores, but if you can get sunglasses so again, guys will transfer in, depending on the officer in the intake who logs in the property, the incoming property, you know, guys will have Ray-Bans and, you know, like expensive sunglasses. In prison, those go for like 10 times the amount. So sunglasses, like real street sunglasses, big deal. Correctional food from the officer's mess. So you have the general population and then you have the officer's mess. The food is supposed to be the same. Let me tell you, it is not. The inmate cooks prepare it totally different. They might have the same exact meal. So the officer's mess menu might say, you know, chicken and mashed potatoes. I don't think it ever said chicken and mashed potatoes. For example, on the main line, you know, it's the kitchen guys throw it together and just make a bunch of food. Some cooks really go out of their way to try to cook good for the population. But the guys that work, the cooks and officers mess, really do it up. It's like fantastic food. So I used to buy, for example, I'd have a contract for like, you know, the week, and somebody would bring me a officer's mess tray, which usually had 2 meals, like lunch and dinner on it. I think it was $5 a day. If you can get that, you're a boss. So that, Stingers, CO food, and I think this will be the last one, TV cells. Cells are valuable. So in the Federal Bureau of Prison, it's really a lot of segregation. So you have in many of the USPs, the maximum security prisons, United States penitentiaries, whatever, you have white cells, black cells, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's the government cells, but for a period of time, inmates will control these cells. I mean, there's been like white cells in certain units for years, and then a warden will come in and they'll switch all that up. But cells are valuable, but the most valuable cells are a cell that you can watch a TV from. Back in the day, they had TV rooms. They didn't have TVs all over the units, okay? So we actually would, again, in the feds, I'm talking about the feds, white TV room, black TV room. Shit, I remember in Arkansas down at Cummins, woof, TV in the middle of the unit. It was like Soul Train. That's all they watched. But yeah, white boys had nothing coming on TVs in Cummins, most units. But TV cells. Nowadays, they have TVs plastered or mounted all over the units. If you have a TV that you can see a cell, it is one of the most valuable things. Georgie Borghese, Georgie boy, alleged mob guy out of Philly, had the cell of all cells. I think his cell, which he gave to me when he went back to court on that new indictment right before he was going to get out, in I think 2012 or 11. You can see what, with 3 TVs, that was major, and the remote. I mean, that was $1,000 setup all day long, for real. Very, very valuable as it sells. Anyway, so if you've done time, please leave in the comment section what was valuable in your prison, or of something of value to prisoners. I'm sure I missed a lot of things, and I'm sure people in different prison systems, could add it. Oh, I might as well add, and I had this down here, a hypodermic needle or syringe, even a homemade one, for people that use drugs intravenously. He who has a syringe. So, like for example, in Chino, I was a medical clerk. You came to me and I'd say you use one or a new one, depending. I think you use with 10, new or 40. And this is actual real ones, what they call UV 100s, I guess. These were actual real ones. And, but most prisons are not. They take the tips off of needles, and then they put them in a big pin, melts them, and it's a big thing. It's a process. It's a real tedious process. Person who has that in dope circles, I mean, so I know people that won't let guys use it unless they got like 3 drops. That was the thing. So if you had 3 people in the room that wanted to, so you had 9 drops, so basically half a paper or so, whatever, yeah, I know that sounds gross to a lot of people, and it is. It actually is. People sharing outfits. A lot of them don't use any kind of bleach, don't even really care to rinse a couple. Yeah. Anyway, take care. Have a great day.